application of wearable AR and metaverse technology in general. Today I'm not going to get into like defining what the metaverse is or things like that. I think that definition is still very much evolving. I don't think that's working. We go to the next slide. But there's a really big opportunity out there. The latest studies say that we're creating 2.5 quintillion bytes every day. And that's a big challenge for people to process and manage and deal with all of that type of information. And I think there's a really interesting opportunity with metaverse technology to, take that data and kind of free it from the realm of just purely 2D interaction. Right? Being able to expose people to that information in a much more human and natural way that allows them to connect more deeply with that. I think there's a really great opportunity for us to bring totally new inventions, very new interaction models, and different ways of processing and dealing with that information that's optimized to how humans react. Right? We're used to operating in 3D. We're used to being able to move around and manipulate things in a very normal way. And whether that's in VR, AR, your web browser, whatever. We want what the opportunity for the metaverse is about $5 trillion by 2030. We'll see how that plays out. But I think if you look at the internet opportunity, it's amazing. And if you layer the metaverse on top of that, it really makes this future plausible. If we go to the next, yep. I don't want to get into like every single aspect of what the metaverse is and what makes it important, but I do want to talk about 3 aspects of it that I think are really essential and that will play into some of the use cases that we'll talk about. The first one is connection. Right? Humans crave connection. When we're on the internet, even now today, that's what people are looking for, is a way to interact and speak and have community with other people. And I think the metaverse offers a way for people to be hyper-connected, in again, that more natural feeling way. If we go to the next slide. Thank you. So, it's really about creating more of those authentic connections with people. There's we've gone a long way with 2D and textual interaction, but I think, as we make that more 3D, as we make it more human, it'll have a greater impact on people and really be able to bring them together in new and interesting ways that can really build deep bonds and deep communities. If we go to the next one. I think the second essential part of the metaverse and something that maybe makes it a little different from just a website or a forum or things like that is creating that authentic feeling of place, right? Somewhere that you belong and somewhere that you can connect and start to really build that sense and have that feeling of inhabiting that place together with the other people that you're connected with. And lastly, having a sense of persistence. If we go to the next slide. Being able to personalize, to make changes to this place that you are all connected with and have it persist whether you're looking at it or not. Every time you come back to it, it's how you left it, or your friend maybe made a little change or left you a note. Having that persist and exist across time, I think, is another essential part of what makes the metaverse interesting and opens up a lot of new opportunities. So let's talk about some of those use cases. If you go to the next slide. This is not an exhaustive list by any means of all the possible use cases for the metaverse, but there's a lot of opportunity here. And I'm going to just talk about a few interesting and a few use cases that I think are worth highlighting. That doesn't mean that any of these other ones are not important. We just don't have 2 hours to go through each one of them. So if we go to the next one, we've been hearing a lot about gaming, right? This is a screenshot of the sandbox. This is a huge opportunity to bring people together. MMOs and other games are already extremely successful and bringing those people together. But I think as really interesting innovations with asset management and being able to kind of bring in your own assets, your own personalization into these hyper-connected, massively multiplayer games. I think we're going to start to see really interesting things come together. There's a lot of innovation happening here that we'll see play out over time, but a lot of really great ways to connect directly with consumers and again build that sense of place and sense of community around having fun together. And very closely tied to that is social. If we go to the next, we're seeing a lot of innovation and experimentation here on what a more 3D social world might look like. Right, it's very early. Maybe a little crude in how some of the stuff is put together now, but we'll start to see people, really building new worlds together and being able to connect. Like I said, at Magic Leap, we've really been looking at some more of the enterprise type use cases, right? How do people bring metaverse experiences or, really bridge that gap between the digital and physical worlds in the enterprise? And so if we go to the next, one of the key places to do that is really digital twins, right? And digital twins can manifest in a bunch of different ways. One is, being able to capture and scan a replica of a 3D place and visualize it or interact with it. But also, if we think about the real world metaverse, it's being able not just look at a model of the place, but actually inhabit it, to be inside and navigate around, that digital copy of the physical world and have it perfectly mapped and aligned to the actual world and be able to augment that, right? Be able to bring in content, be able to, put work instructions or give people directions to where they're trying to go, help them assemble a complex part that they're trying to make, and, really, really have that deep connection with the physical world around that and tie it into the digital simulation. That's bringing the digital layer to the human, but also the exposure of the real world to the computer and to AI. If we go to the next, we're also experimenting a lot with health, right? There's a lot of opportunity here to, not just reduce costs in the operating room or with direct patient care, but to lower or really make it more powerful to bring in remote participants, or have a way to really help surgeons be much more effective in what they're doing. And we're seeing a lot of success with people experimenting with AR, with the metaverse, and that technology in the health realm. And I think over the next few years, we're going to see patient outcomes start to improve and really be able to help make doctors and nurses much more effective in the operating room. If you go to the next one. Construction is an area that's really ripe for metaverse intervention and bringing those digital twins to bear. Having really high quality scans of 3D spaces, but also being able to build up all the different layers of the blueprints, the physical placement of wires and pipes and all of that, and basically be able to give people superhuman powers to have X-ray vision, to know exactly where that pipe was placed. If we're going to cut into this wall, through AR, I could visualize that. Through VR, I could go simulate that building and start to map it out and build it all together. And we'll start to see those things really start to blend together over time. It'll make doing site walks easier. It'll make doing all kinds of aspects of the entire construction process easier, more effective, catch errors earlier, and really start to see a lot of value come out of that. And then that becomes your basis of your model if you're going to build a VR experience for people to teleport into that building or that part of the city. Starting to have those very detailed 3D models and captures of the space are essential to make that possible. And the last one here, I'm going to try to keep us on time, is really manufacturing, right? We're doing a lot of work with NVIDIA Omniverse and looking at, how do you build really highly detailed simulations of advanced manufacturing plants, but then be able to bring that into the real world again, so that people can not only interact with that simulation on their computer, but through AR be able to walk around and feed real-time data about how people are performing, the tasks that they're seeing, maybe change detection and change management of the mismatch between the real world and the digital simulation, being able to bridge that in real time and make those simulations much more powerful and much more effective. So lots of opportunity here. Before I wrap up, again, I'm not going to cover every possible use case. I wanted to show something really interesting that we're doing at Magic Leap to try to kind of move digital twins forward and look at, it's a small reflection of what we think is possible in the metaverse. If you go to the next slide, this is a demo that we did of a very high-end car model using NVIDIA Omniverse. And what we're able to do is take this and actually render it in AR, in your headset, in an extremely photorealistic way. So that includes drawing shadows, having real-time reflections, all of that live displayed in your headset, and we could place the car, in this room and do a very detailed design review and change aspects of this car, of this design, in real time using, common off-the-shelf 3D modeling tools, Omniverse. And so all that's happening in real time, being rendered in real time on the headset. And one of the advantages of the Magic Leap headset is we have this dynamic dimming technology that allows us to make the content feel much more solid than maybe what you're typically used to seeing in a wearable AR headset. And so it feels like the car is really there in the room, and you can walk around and get that photorealistic experience. And so, you start to expand that out to having, very advanced digital twins, excuse me, in the metaverse. It makes a lot of really interesting things possible. If you go to the next slide, I think it's just one more screenshot of being able to see that in photorealistic quality in AR. So just a taste of what's to come. And, we're starting to see a lot of really big advances working with digital twins and starting to build all that infrastructure to capture and manage digital twins and then make them available in AR, in VR, for us to start to build the foundations of the metaverse. I think that's all I've got today. Like I said, I'm going to try to keep us on time. So thank you all.
And questions from the audience, I'll come around with a microphone. I'll start off. What was behind the pivot to enterprise from where you were before?
Yeah, sure. Magic Leap started out as a consumer company, and we were really aiming to try to hit the broad market. I think the honest truth is the broad wearable AR market is just not there yet, right? And there's still a lot of innovation to do on the headset, but also there's some social acceptability. There's some other challenges to really getting that broad use of technology. Some really huge scope for people to use as a tool in a work setting. We think that's a much more viable place in the near term for people to start using AR, to start getting comfortable with wearable AR and start to really build up the ecosystem around that.
Questions? Yeah. Yep. Okay. Angela.
Okay. Oh, sorry. So I was just going to ask, is there any underlying technology that they're building on, or is it all proprietary, or are you building on Unreal as an example? Does that matter? And then my second question is, which vertical was the quickest to adopt?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, Magic Leap, we're all about open standards and supporting openness. So we do support OpenXR, and we are integrated with Unity, Unreal, and because of our OpenXR foundation, really any 3D engine that supports OpenXR could target Magic Leap. And then what's the earliest vertical to see success? We're seeing a lot of adoption in a couple of different use cases that really move across different verticals, which is really around training and work assistance. So whether that's detailed work instructions that are overlaid on the real world and helping guide you through doing that task, or doing in situ training for like first responders. being able to do that and participate in the real world, and if you're training to use a fire extinguisher, to be able to actually pick up a real fire extinguisher and go through that simulated training experience, it starts to build that muscle memory, and we're starting to see a lot of success in the retention rate of those types of scenarios.
Very cool use cases. Thank you for that. Speaking of different verticals, any use cases in sports industry? Have you had any opportunities there with different arenas or teams?
Yeah, it's definitely something we explored, and especially as we were working through a lot of the Magicverse, there's a lot of future opportunity there, I believe. Some of the challenges are just using a wearable AR headset outdoors. It can be tricky still right now, so there's still some innovation, still some core problems to solve there. But it's definitely an area that I think is ripe for augmenting that experience and really enhancing the way that people see and are able to process that type of arena sport. Especially if you got bad seats and you're way up here, being able to in real time get more information about what's happening on the field and zoom in or get extra metadata about what's happening. There's lots of really interesting opportunities that we can bring there. I think there are some people working on those problems, and we'll start to see that really show up in the next couple of years.
Okay, Jay, thank you very much. Really interesting. Thanks very much.
Thank you all.
Okay, we're going to, that's a nice segue to the sports panel. So we're going to ask Piotr, in fact, and Ryan to please come to stage. And this is a discussion panel, no presentations. I understand it. Let me get one more microphone. I gave it back, but I'll get it back from you. And you guys just introduce yourselves first, and then we'll talk.
I come from Sport Tech AI. I was the global head of sports tech for KPMG for 5 years, and for the last 2 been advising startups, investing in startups, running accelerators, all focused on sports and all over the world, all sports. I deal with Stockholm. I deal with every country, every city you probably said out there. So,
thank you very much.
Currently living in Warsaw and Paris, but from New York City.
Very good. Hi, everyone. My name is Piotr Smeder. I'm originally from Poland. I live just north of here in St. Petersburg, Florida. I am a co-founder and head of partnerships for Metasport Arena, a company behind Sam Arena, which is an entertainment and sports metaverse.
Can we just start with a bit more profile of what it is you're doing? What is Metasport to me?
Sure. So our goal is really to address fan engagement. Metasport Arena is a sports entertainment metaverse where fans and brands and sports teams can come in, interact with one another, build its own assets, play games, meet one another. There's a plethora of opportunities that we're developing.
And in terms of clients right now that you have, or your prospective clients, tell us a bit about that.
Sure. So right now, for the past year and a half, really, we've been focusing on building. We're a bootstrapped organization, and so we really focus on building and making those connections, both with partners and potential clients like PSG or Man United. We're actually far advanced in conversations with a club in Turkey. So really no actual customer just yet, but we are building and launching our beta in the next coming weeks where we'll test that.
Ryan, talk to us a bit, you know the traditional sports business a long time, owns a few sports teams, I understand. Tell us a bit more about the opportunities, just the broader digital opportunities for existing sports franchises in the world, particularly those who may be, let's say, a B-level club. I mean, the top guys have got it pretty much figured out, I would suppose. But tell us more about the opportunities on digital side with those next level sports teams.
Okay, well, for starters, just to clarify, I'm a minority owner of a couple teams. I don't own them wholly. And one of them's a first division basketball team in Poland where we're starting to do stuff in the metaverse. And we're actually about to video their players, screening them all, and then we can drop them into the phone, and their fans can drop them at their house. This is the first thing we're doing with them, but I'll give you a better example. It was actually, the company is called Imagine AR, based out of Canada. One of the companies I advise and I'm on board of. And I was here for Art Basel 2 years ago, and I ran into a friend of mine who's from Brazil, and I was telling him, hey, I'm working with this soccer team, Atletico Mineiro. We have the app. I can actually drop their famous player Hulk right here in this room, and we can take a picture with him. And he happened to say, we just won the Brazilian League today. And I'm like, oh, that's great. Let's bring it up. Sure enough, I had no idea it was going to be there, but they had the trophy in the phone, and we were able to take a picture with Felipe and my friend Monica and with the trophy from the Brazilian League. That happened just that day, and he was able to send it back to all his friends in Brazil. And like, how the hell do you have the trophy, and why do you have it? And so that's just one example of a Brazilian team doing this. Was 2 years ago they were doing this, and that was Atletico Mineiro. Now they are a good team in Brazil, but it's soccer in Brazil, so it's big. Right. But then using the exact same technology, we're doing a first division basketball team, which is actually second. It's called first division, but Extra Class is the top. So they are. We have 700 fans a game. We're not big. We're not massive. We have $1 million budget. That's it. So they're going to be starting to do the same technology, and you can take those players and you can put a sponsor behind it, and you extend the sponsorship to address the millennials and the younger kids that like this kind of stuff.
So what would be the tech that you'll use? You'll find partners for that tech, or are you going to try to develop yourself inside?
I myself don't do any of that. I just advise from the fan engagement, from the investing, and all that, and I can't really get into tech. I mean, they're all doing different things, but Imagine AR, I don't know what on the tech side. That's not where. Yeah.
So Pio, in terms of opportunities from your perspective, prospective clients, right? Let's go out 2 or 3 years from now. Who would you say are the biggest opportunities, the low-hanging fruit that you would be going after in terms of what your solutions are for those companies, those sports franchises?
Sure. So from day one, we're looking to open up new revenue streams, new revenue opportunities, whether it's a digital twin, like our colleague was mentioning earlier, developing those, or other NFTs and digital assets. So that's a primary opportunity we feel to engage with fans and to make them more committed. It's not just about buying a ticket and coming to the game. It's now about walking into virtual stadium and streaming and calling your friend, inviting them into the game, meeting the athlete or the team. Yes, the opportunities are absolutely endless.
I can add to some of the digital twin stuff. So there's another company I advise called OnePlan, and they specialize in digital twins for arenas. And during the pandemic, we started working with them, and FIBA has an issue. FIBA does world championships all over the place, and there's a World Cup coming up for basketball this summer between Singapore, Japan, and Indonesia. It's going to host all the basketball teams. And they always have to fly people out there, do site visits. It gets costly, and they saw this opportunity, this digital twin, and they latched on us. There's a massive cost reduction, time savings for them. Another great example, the Los Angeles Clippers are building a new stadium, and Steve Ballmer, who's their owner, came from Microsoft, and he's obviously a tech guru. With that, we're showing all the sponsors. We're showing what the stadium's going to look like. So able to show that to sponsors. To come back to the FIBA one, there's also a safety issue of where people are going to go, how the ingress, where they're going to be moving around. To be able to show all that and plan all that ahead of time. So in the stadium world, it's happening all the time. And for new stadiums, for existing stadiums, for sponsors and so forth, think about 1/3 of the NBA teams are all handled by OnePlan and their digital twins.
Okay,
Yep.
1/3.
1/3 of the NBA teams are handled by OnePlan, the company.
Facilities wise, we actually are talking to a team in Turkey that's asked us to develop a space for them to where they can meet and train their personnel remotely. So now it's no longer a Zoom party. It will be an actual avatar in the world where they all feel at home.
And you mentioned sponsors, and let's talk about individual players. I mean, what is the potential for individual players extending their individual brand, but also the sponsorship, I would imagine, could be very interesting.
So that same company, Imagine AR, and we had that app I mentioned with Atletico Mineiro. The Baltimore Ravens are doing Ravens in Reality. It launched last season. We were able to put Lamar Jackson in everyone's house. We did a tour in London and we made a joke that he made more appearances in AR than he did on the field because he was hurt last year. And he might not be there next year for the Ravens. But that was being now sponsored by a large telecom company. a competitor to one of the telecom companies that's back here. But that's going to go live this year, so they're getting a big spot. So we're able to put Lamar everywhere. Now, we started having a lot of more success. They also do the scavenger hunts, everything else you do in AR. But what was really big was putting that individual player in somebody's house or the trophy. So you might be familiar with a company called Cameo, where you have a celebrity say happy birthday to you. You know, Kim Kardashian says happy birthday, Tom. And it's personalized. We personalize it, but we don't get to say Tom because they don't want to do that all the time. We record them. We have a half hour or spinning out a company called Fame Days, where you can buy that celebrity and put them wherever you want for 10 minutes, 20 minutes. We have it for 24 hours. David Ortiz was signed. He was going to the Hall of Fame this past summer. We didn't get it off the ground, but Dunkin' Donuts wanted to basically put David Ortiz in every Dunkin' Donuts store. So when you came in the morning, you bought your donut, you could take a picture with David Ortiz the day you went in the Hall of Fame. But that's just an example. So those individual players, we're going to them directly, and with Neil, now name, image, and likeness, those players and working with the IMGs of the world, the Learfields of the world, connecting that player with sponsors, helping them build their personal brand. This goes down to whatever level you are, but that's another way to open this up and to get more sponsorship and then working on their personal brand. So we're working on that mostly through all the agencies. So the Wassermans of the world, the IMGs.
We're also quite excited about new opportunities. We've actually partnered with a company that develops avatars, and we're looking to bring in student athletes as well and assist in that nice little money-making endeavor for them.
Tell us about big events, FIFA, World Cup, Super Bowl. What more potential is there embedded in these big events? I mean, you see coming up, and there have been, projects and things around that the last couple of years. But what can you imagine the next couple of years might happen with these big events?
Yeah, so who was it? I think it might have been Chelsea called me recently, and they asked, how far in the future is it going to be when we're playing a Champions League game in Madrid, but our fans can come to our stadium and watch a digital twin of the same game in reality. We're not there yet.
It's a little bit like ABBA concert, right? They had packed full of real people, and they were all holograms, right?
Correct. Yeah, in that way, but that could be pre-recorded or different. It's not live. And when it's live sports, it's different. But to be able to watch that live sport, that ball going back and forth. One thing that is real that we're doing, a company out of Madeira called Foot AR, and Ronaldo's from Madeira, and it's actually his club that's live at. He calls it the Shazam for sports. You hold up your phone to the TV, and it's Shazam in reverse. It picks up what that game is and puts that game on a tabletop. And now that game is being played on the tabletop through your phone. You have different layers. You can now peel back of betting, fan engagement. The sponsors can all be there. And basically, you're able to watch that game on this tabletop just from holding your phone up to the TV, and now you put it on the tabletop right there. So they're live with Madeira. They're working with Vodafone and some others right there in Portugal. But it's Ronaldo's old club. He's not officially a sponsor, he's a part of it, making it successful.
You mentioned betting. Well, how about gambling? What's the potential on that side for the sports and gambling kind of goes together? Opportunities around that?
Yeah, so obviously you start putting gambling in the metaverse and everything else in that digital twin and others. But the problem, two things are happening. So within the U.S. market, betting's now legalized most places, but everything's also moving to streaming. And when you go to streaming, there's latency. And with latency, you can't really do in-game betting because you know what happens in the future. Right. My biggest pet peeve is when I was in Paris this past fall, and I'm an Eagles fan, and I'm waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning watching on my phone, and I'm getting these push notifications, Eagles just scored a touchdown. Now, there's a company out of South Africa. I just got some news today that the trial is going well with DAZN, but they're able to eliminate latency by changing the whole converter box. Different technology. We're not talking metaverse, but a little company out of South Africa, I'm going to call them little, they'll be big one day, but they eliminate streaming, and it's actually faster than cable. And DAZN, they're doing a trial with DAZN, they're working with IMG and football. Now, the moment you can now do that, then it opens up all these other possibilities for in-game live betting and all the stuff you can peel back. So there's another company called Fabric, which works very closely with a lot of NBA teams. And at the NBA All-Star game a few weeks ago, basically all the fans are able to be there either at home, like you could be at the game itself, but you can walk around, open up the different portals, and you have all different experiences. So there's betting while you're doing different things in a virtual world. And NBA is really big on pushing the limit. They're probably the most advanced of all leagues. I don't know who saw it, but they actually revealed, I think it was Ahmad Rashad, they had him up on stage, and Adam Silver walked around with his phone and was able to make one of the players in the game Ahmad Rashad. And it was a live game, and the guy is now himself inside the game dunking a basketball, his face, everything of him, and running back and forth. So basically, I can put you, Tom, and you could be the LeBron James. And
I've always wanted this. I've been dreaming of dunking a basketball, so let me do that, please. Yeah.
yeah, it was really cool. You just Google it. It was Ahmad Rashad and Adam Silver. It was a tech thing that they launched there.
Let's talk about generational differences. I mean, this Metaverse Web3 is certainly, the domain initially of gaming, very young kids almost, Roblox, et cetera, comes to mind. But how do you see that moving up in terms of the age and the generation gap?
So really quickly mention the Roblox, the NHL I forget what game it was, but they just did a digital twin of the real game with cartoon characters, sponsored by Disney at Green Park or something like that. But it was two games. You can watch it side by side. One was cartoon characters, and one was actually the actual game, but it was happening the exact same. And so they're addressing that to the youth. The NFL with Nickelodeon did a special game where there's like slime and things were happening on top of the real game. So as you're watching it, and a lot of fans liked it because they were able to explain their kid how football worked. And a lot of these 5-6-year-olds, they're actually engaged to it because they like Nickelodeon. And they like when green, whatever you call that, slime falls on top of the player when he scores a touchdown. So putting that kind of alternate and then helping to explain the rules to American football, which is not easy for Europeans. But I guess Nickelodeon dumbs it down and makes it easier.
Any thoughts about generational differences?
I don't think it's a challenge. Just like going to a match in the real life or any game, you would take your children, all generations would participate. And so technology adoption is just a matter of time. And so I feel like with what you were talking about earlier, AR adoption and meta use case in for us, for example, what we're hearing and the ones that we're hearing is just more inclusivity, reaching out further, reaching those fans across the world. Real Madrid, for example, they sell most jerseys in Indonesia. We want to be able to help these kids watch a game and then maybe get their jersey, digital one and a real one. Make it a digital experience. So I think we'll be able to bridge that gap relatively quickly, regardless of age.
There is definitely a challenge with the younger generation and caring about sports. The CEO of Liverpool was on stage, I think it was just before the pandemic or it must have been just before, and they're asking him, how are you competing with Man City, who has unlimited budget? How are you competing with the others? And he's like, I'm not competing with Man City. I'm competing with Fortnite. I'm competing with video games. And that's my competition, is how do you get that younger generation to become a soccer fan? Because right now they're not, and they're playing video games. And so that was an interesting view that he doesn't look at Man City as a competition, even though they were winning. He looked at his real competition is video games.
And so it also is a matter of providing the right content, right? It's accessibility is one. For us, it's important that we're browser-based to start with, so everyone can have a go at it, literally. But it's also important to bring all ages and groups from everywhere.
Let's talk about money and financing a bit. You're, I assume, in the process of raising money, and you're advising people on that. Of course, we're in a bit of a downturn right now, but in terms of big picture money going into the sports application or the sports part of this, tell us a bit about who's interested in that. Is it, corporate VC guys? Is it specialized VC people? Is it individual wealthy player that's doing stuff? I mean, what would you, if I come to you and say, I need to raise $5 million for a beautiful project in sports world, who do I talk to?
Well, there's sports funds in the U.S. There's Will Ventures, there's Advantage Fund, there's a couple. There's another one called TPI, which is ex-NFL athletes. It started NFL, now it's all sports, where they pull their money together. They do the due diligence, and different individual athletes are pouring their money in and collectively investing. One thing, and we're at a metaverse thing, if I'm looking at the presentation, if we're in the US and there's a bunch of stuff on NFTs, we take it right out because that's a sad word right now, I guess I'd say. The investors don't want to hear it. In your episode with Different, but yeah, that's something that's come out. And with the teams itself, so the Atlanta Hawks have a fund, and this even came from my friend David, who was like, we're not going to invest anything in NFTs because we tried it once and it didn't work for them. And that's just their example. Not saying it's good for everyone. I'm sure it's great for a lot of people, but that was what the Hawks view, and their fund was, no, they want to stay away from it.
And corporate about that is Disney's of the world or other companies like that.
Absolutely. And they all have funds. Everyone's a little bit different. Every big team has either an official fund or they still invest or they like to invest. And then the bigger players have, the various accelerators that they work with and so forth.
And in Europe, what doors you knock on in your world?
All the doors. We've knocked all the doors, and the feedback varies. Definitely, the market situation is not helping.
Yeah.
The earlier blow up of different NFTs and cartoons also kind of impacted the overview of what people perceive as a market. But underlying technology is really what keeps us around, and the ability investors are focusing on observing and nurturing those relationships right now before pulling triggers.
It's a lot easier to raise in the U.S. than in Europe.
Sure.
And a lot of my European startups, they're raising here.
That's true.
Sure. Questions from audience, sports fans, teams. What do you want questions? Hideki, what's happening in Japan? Anything on that front? Don't talk about. Okay.
They're the world's best baseball team.
Okay. Thanks, guys. Really interesting. Appreciate it very much.
Any questions? I'll be around.
Thank you guys.
Good. Oh, thanks. Let's go.
Okay, we're gonna jump over to Polygon. Ryan is somewhere here. Yes, great. If the tech guys can Steven get us all set up on this one. This clicker works. The other one doesn't.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
just
But you can-
push this button? Or?
Yeah, just go green for forward and red for back.
Amazing.
Yeah,
Should
you
I
can just,
just stand up here or use this?
I don't know if that's actually working.
Okay, I can use this.
Just for show. Okay, yeah.
Great. Thank you. Hi, everybody. My name is Ryan Kuehl. I am the global lead for entertainment partnerships at Polygon Labs, which is the growth and development team advancing the Polygon blockchain. I work with, just for a little bit of context before I jump in, I work with brands like Starbucks, DraftKings, MasterCard, Nubank, who are entering Web3 and identifying these opportunities for the mass adoption of blockchain technology. And that's what really our team is focused on. The business use cases, the consumer use cases, the entertainment use cases. Use cases of blockchain technology, but there are three that are really picking up steam. One of them is obviously gaming. The other is tokenization of financial assets. And another one is the loyalty rewards opportunity. So this is going to be an overview of the Web3 loyalty rewards opportunity. If you're interested in any of this material, I can send it to you directly. Feel free to follow me on Twitter, RyanKuhel, and I have my Substack where all of this information is written out in even more detail that I'm going to present today if you want to nerd out about this like me. So let's jump in. So an executive summary of the presentation. First, we're going to talk about what are loyalty rewards programs for folks who are maybe a little bit less familiar. Then we're going to talk about, before we jump into all the, what blockchain can enable, what are the pain points today in loyalty rewards? Then we're going to talk about why blockchain. I'm going to do a little bit on why Polygon, but it's mostly going to be why do we need a blockchain solution as opposed to a centralized database. Then we'll talk about how this looks in the wild and some future predictions about what I personally think are going to come true. And in a couple of years, if those don't happen, you can tweet at me and tell me I was wrong. So what are loyalty rewards? So a loyalty rewards program is a marketing tool. It's used to increase consumption of a product or service by building brand loyalty. So why do brands do this? Well, according to Nielsen's research, 84% of customers are more willing to choose a retailer that runs a loyalty program. Makes sense. They reward you for your consumption. And according to Forrester Comart's research, people transact 3.5x more in programs that have loyalty. People spend more money, they choose programs with loyalty. Makes sense. This is not a new marketing strategy. This has been I was looking for the earliest example. Someone can say, if you find an earlier example, let me know. The earliest one I found was Betty Crocker's loyalty rewards program in 1929. So this has been around for a while. Okay, so what's changed? What's still the same? So first, what's still the same? A loyalty rewards program works really well when the rewards you give to the customers don't eat so much into the margins. So let me give you 2 examples. If there is an empty first class seat on a flight and Delta gives that to you for free, that doesn't eat into their margins. The perceived value to the customer is very high. That's a great loyalty rewards program. If, Porsche gives you a car, customer very happy, brand very sad. Now, there's lots of stuff in the middle. What about if Nike gives you a discount on a pair of shoes? So the point of a loyalty program is not just to be a cost center, but to have a high margin loyalty program. So loyalty margins are really important. It's not just about customer acquisition. So that's still the same. Nothing's changed about that. So what's changed? Loyalty program operators, really the marketers who are running these, are trying to make programs more experiential and less transactional. So let's say moving away from 9 stamps at your local sandwich stop, and then the 10th one you get a free sandwich, to brand immersion, really connecting to the brand. And if you look at the Starbucks Odyssey program, it's really about transferring the brand value to the customer that's been accrued over time. So less transactional, more experiential, high margins are important. Okay, so let's talk about the pain points that exist today independent of blockchain, just to contextualize what's going on. So first of all, customer acquisition costs are up, ROAS is down. It's more expensive to advertise. I'll get into why in a second. So it's hard to get people into your loyalty program. It's just more expensive to do that from a paid media perspective. Then there's a lack of program engagement. There's multiple surveys on this. 80% of rewards are not redeemed. I'll talk about some interesting stats I saw on the dollar value of those rewards. So people are in 14 to 16 different programs, not redeeming rewards. Third problem, giving away products into margins. That makes sense. Fourth problem, so when you do multi-company rewards, it's very heavy tech lift. So imagine you have Uber, and then you're connecting your Amex card into Uber. So Amex and Uber need to build data pipes to do identity resolution between 2 different identity systems, and then they make sure that point balances are transferring. Oh, but you change your password on this one. It's a mess. So connecting rewards programs together to create multi-company rewards requires a manual partnership and a heavy tech lift, pain in the butt. Finally, having a 360 view of the customer is extremely difficult in a multi-channel world. So you go to, the website for J.Crew, you add a pair of pants to your shopping cart, you go to the physical location in Brickell. Do they know that Ryan has a pair of pants in my shopping cart and they can help me transact, or is that data siloed? Usually it's siloed. So there are lots of different examples where it's siloed. It's very difficult to have a 360 view of the customer. So just to dive in, I'm going to go quickly through this, but just to really help illustrate these issues, because these are big pain points. When we talk about it being expensive to advertise, why is that? That's because of 2 trends: the deprecation of web cookies on the browser, which were historically used to collect data for personalized advertising, and changing Apple iOS policies. If you're not in paid media, you're not doing that day to day, basically advertising more expensive on the social platforms, on Google, etc. So it's harder to get customers. Lack of program engagement, we talked about it. 20% of rewards are redeemed. Fun stat on that, I saw an estimate that the total value of rewards, so think like airline points, coupons, sandwiches that you get on the 10th thing, what is the value of that in the US? It's $40 billion. So that means there's $32 billion worth of rewards, if we're talking about the 80% not being redeemed, that are going to waste every year in the US. Giving away free products into margins, that makes sense. Partnerships are heavy, connecting data pipes together, expensive. Measuring ROI for creator marketing, 360 view of the customer. It's really difficult to do attribution in a multi-channel world. So this is another flavor of that. If Heineken pays a creator to make an ad on YouTube, how do they attribute the sale when you go to Costco and buy a beer? Tough to do these attribution across like a complex customer journey. Okay, now I've set that up. Let's talk about some solutions enabled by blockchain. So, first of all, when you think about blockchain, it is an open standard for the data. An open standard, we talk about interoperability. I hate buzzwords. Multiple companies can use this data standard. Why is that a big deal? Because it makes multi company rewards a lot easier than connecting the data pipes together. So, let me give you an example. Let's assume an airline puts their diamond medallion status. So you have a diamond medallion status, you're flying all over the place on as a NFT, as a token on the blockchain. Tomorrow, your friend who opens a luxury luggage company on Shopify can token gate their Shopify store for the people who have the diamond medallion status on chain and give them a 20% discount or a free carry on with the purchase of one piece of luggage. They didn't have to talk to, let's say, Delta or whatever airline. They didn't have to build custom data pipes. These standards are open Ethereum standards. So once you standardize stuff, you make it much easier to do multi-company rewards, which accrues value to the airline's loyalty program at no cost to the airline. So again, remember, not eating into margins. So those are two big opportunities. Second, you have a secondary market for loyalty and rewards. So I'm going to give you like a spicy take on this one, but let's start with the thing that I think most people agree with. The second thing a lot of people disagree with me about. So we talked about $40 billion of rewards exist in the US. Coupons, free sandwiches, discounts, free pair of shoes, airline points, etc. If you on my Amex card, if I go into the offer section, there's a bunch of rewards that are worth $50, $25 that I don't want to use. I'll give you another example. When I purchased a Casper mattress, it's a mattress company. After I purchased the mattress, they gave me $250 in an email that I could use to purchase a mattress. I don't need another mattress. So when you use blockchain, what does a token do? It creates a secondary market and liquidity. So you can put that $40 billion of rewards on the secondary market, and now I can sell that $250 mattress coupon, make $100. It's still on Casper's balance sheet. Some other person who wants to buy a mattress can use that. And by the way, they just acquired a new customer through that transaction. And by the way, they can program royalties into the smart contract. So I can sell the $100 Casper discount and they get 5% royalties off of that. So that could even become a new revenue stream for them on the secondary market. So prospecting customers with lower cost or customer acquisition cost. So one of my partners is Reddit. They've launched the Reddit Crypto Snoo avatar. It's an avatar that people use as their digital identity on Reddit. There's different artists who make them. People use them when they, like 7 million people have them on Reddit. So when you think about advertising, if there's any advertisers in the room, usually you pay a media company to reach your customer. This is the first opportunity where the media company is your customer. So if you stack value on top of that, we talked about token gated rewards, like the Shopify example with the luxury luggage. Let's say that Shake Shack said, hey, you have one of these, Reddit NFTs. If you sign up for our loyalty program, free burger, token gated experience. I just got advertised against my media product that I own because I own one of those Reddit NFTs. So I'm going to share that on social. So you'll get earned media from that. So for the cost of a burger, I just acquired a new customer. Now, with rising customer acquisition costs due to the deprecation of web cookies and changing Apple iOS policies, this customer acquisition cost might be a lot lower than other channels. So I think this is the most underrated earned media opportunity out there. You could token gate for a unified customer experience. So I go to the JCrew store, I pull out my JCrew loyalty NFT. It could have a QR code. They can know it's Ryan. I have something in my shopping cart. Boom, they customize that experience. Now you might be saying, Ryan, that's cool, but you can do that on a centralized database. You said this was about blockchain. So why do we need blockchain to do this? Well, I want you to imagine a world where there are lots of loyalty programs and commerce happening on blockchain. So this is happening at scale. So now JCrew can know, and if this can be done with zero knowledge provers, so basically they can do it in a privacy safe way to get information about my consumption across a lot of different programs and a lot of different things I'm doing and further customize the experience. So they're not just knowing what I put in my shopping cart, but they're knowing basically my e-commerce behavior across the board. So why Polygon? I won't go so much into this, but essentially we exist to scale Ethereum. So we through roll-up technology, through zero knowledge technology that we've invested, billions of dollars into, we're helping scale Ethereum block space. The basic idea in blockchain is that you can have security, decentralization, and speed. It's the trilemma. You can only have two. So Ethereum has security and decentralization, but the speed, it's very slow and very expensive. So we make it fast and cheap. I won't go so much into the products, but let's make some future predictions. So first of all, your phone is going to be your crypto wallet. Instead of a separate hard wallet or private key management, which can be a pain in the butt, it will just be on your phone. So you'll have a wallet. It will be your self-sovereign identity. It will be your source of credentials. Instead of managing a bunch of different credentials online, you're going to manage one set of, you'll be in control of all of your credentials and access. People will work on behalf of the brands they love. So there's this concept called DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations. Let's just think of it as a digital co-op. So what I think brands are going to do are they're going to set up corporate social responsibility DAOs. So when a brand donates money to a charity, what they're going to do is allow their most loyal customers who have, these loyalty NFTs to vote on which charity. So the most loyal customers are going to vote on what the treasury donates to. And by the way, talking about programming royalties into the secondary market of rewards, you could have that fund the corporate social responsibility donation if you wanted to. And finally, digital identity is going to go on chain. So we're talking about commerce, but our Polygon ID team and the promise of digital identity will make it easier to issue and verify credentials online. That's going to be super important for accessing government services. So people are going to control their digital ID. They're going to access all these government services in emerging countries that are trying to technologically leapfrog, and that's going to have an impact on commerce. So again, you can follow me or connect with me on Ryan KUHEL on Twitter. I have a newsletter blog post on all of this stuff where I go into like extreme detail with all the stats. I'm happy to connect afterwards. Thank you.
Yeah, for a minute. Really interesting. Really interesting. Questions from the floor at all? Yeah. Look, I'll just start with one question. What about, you mentioned it, the secondary market? I mean, do those companies that have issued those discount programs, do they want you to resell it to someone else they don't know?
Yeah, so that's the question I usually get is, wait a minute, why would Delta want me to sell my diamond medallion status?
Yeah.
Like, that's good for the consumer, but is that good for Delta?
Right.
I'll start with your question though. So yes, I think they will. Here's the reason: 80% of rewards are not being redeemed. So the fact that you have such a low redemption rate and people belong to 14 to 16 different programs means the engagement is very low and the program is not delivering against its promise. So therefore, let people redeem the rewards that are useful to them and sell the rewards that are not. As a consumer, I can just tell you within the Amex program, they have a bunch of offers for all sorts of like skincare stuff. It's just not, I just don't want those products. But I would take the $400 of value to offset the cost of like the card or whatever. So I think there's a huge opportunity there. I actually think people will sell their status though, because you could make it soul bound. You could set up a token so it can't be sold. I think for certain status, you will do that. But I think there are certain like time bound status and experiences that people will earn that will be able to be sold. And that's part of like transferring the brand value. So I think brands are going to experiment with this stuff, but I definitely hear the concern about selling. I think some brands will not allow you to sell their status. Other brands will experiment with it.
Huge opportunity, I think. Yeah. Yes, please. Yeah, hold on, because also we're streaming, and so they catch up through the streaming.
How does Polygon make Ethereum faster and cheaper?
Yeah, so there are two different approaches I'll speak to. So one of them is running up a bunch of transactions. So as opposed to like we have a blockchain like a layer 2. So a bunch of transactions will be posted to Polygon, and then we'll roll that up in like one batch to Ethereum. So that's the roll up. But we also just the big innovation is this idea of the zero knowledge Ethereum virtual machine, ZK EVM. So basically, it's a huge breakthrough that people did not think was going to happen. This is like getting into the technical weeds. Like I love to nerd out on this stuff, so I won't bore you for too long. But basically, zero knowledge allows you to have attestation about that something is true without like revealing the private information. So an example of that is like, I can attest to the fact that I'm over the age of 18 without giving you my birth date, or that someone could attest that they make over a certain threshold of money to be eligible for a loan without providing the information. So it's like a mathematical proof. So we just launched this. It's being tested out. It's not, mass adoption, but it's going to influence like the roadmap of everything. So in addition to the roll-ups, basically this like zero knowledge prover is this huge unlock for Ethereum. So we just had on March 27th, Vitalik, one of the founders of Ethereum, was live with Jordy, who's like one of our research scientists, doing the first transaction on zkVM. So this has been like, for the engineers in the room, this is a huge unlock, and honestly, technically speaking, over my head, but it basically scales the block space of Ethereum.
How's it going? So Polygon is an open source network. It has a token Matic. It's a top 10 coin and billions of dollars. But you work for Polygon Labs. So what's your goal when you're making these partnerships? Is it to get more adoption for Polygon network, the token? Do you guys work off of like a revenue model? People hire Polygon Labs?
Yeah, great question. So Polygon Labs is super unique type of entity. I guess similar to Ava Labs and I think like Solana Labs. So these are business entities created by the blockchain, by the foundation, to drive adoption of the blockchain. So basically what we're trying to do, they're obviously engineers that are helping evolve the technology. And then what our business team is doing is, and we don't charge, it's a very unique business model, which you can get into the details there on the side. But essentially what we're doing is we're coming up with the business use cases of blockchain. We're getting the early adopters like the Starbucks and the Reddits and the MasterCards and the Nubanks of the world to leverage this, in addition to working with Web3 natives who have started in Web3. And the goal is to really, we're not just trying to like knock down one deal, but the goal is to develop like sustainable use cases that the whole industry can adopt. So Starbucks, doing the frontier with this loyalty opportunity, like my goal in working with them is to obviously make them successful so that every brand who does this type of thing can unlock the opportunity here. And the same thing with, let's say tokenization or gaming. Like we want any game developer, you don't have to talk to me or talk to anybody at Polygon to build on Polygon. In fact, that like we're philosophically, we don't want to set up ourselves that you would have to rely on us, but we're trying to like seed these behaviors and seed the use case in the industry.
Very fast question. Your very last one, because we got to keep on schedule. Yeah. And Azerian is up next presentation, and then H&M. Okay.
So I'd love your perspective on Starbucks. How do they perceive having their data out there in a decentralized network, or is it a private blockchain?
So,
and short answer too. So I see.
Okay. Yeah. We can talk later. I would say that the Odyssey experience is a gaming and experiential layer actually built on top of their loyalty program that's integrated with it. And if you can use it, I mean, you can check it out yourself. And I think the information and like the experiences and the digital stamps that folks are collecting is, it's just like it is separate from, I think what I know what you're referencing. I'd be happy to chat afterwards, but it's a little bit of a unique setup the way they've set it up. And I would also say that like for folks who want to have privacy, you can use zero knowledge to have attestation about stuff without it being public. So there's different ways to set it up. I'll leave it at that without getting myself in trouble with saying anything private about Starbucks.
Okay. All right. Very, very interesting. Really. Thanks a lot. Thanks, Ryan. Really good. Have a round of applause. Yeah. Okay, we are on for our first of our showcases. We have, I think, 4 or 5 showcases today, which are the origin of this was that we found over the years and different events that we do, the nominations are so interesting, and the jury has seen all the nominations, a very thick file, very interesting data. But we thought give the companies themselves a chance to actually tell what they're doing, and it's been very popular. People really like it. So we're gonna start with Azerian somewhere. Where are you guys? There, okay, in the back here, and then H&M is up next, right? And hi, Amber. Good to see you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Santiago Herrera here from Azurian. This one? Yeah. Perfect. I don't have to click it. Just a video. Okay. Hello, hello. So, Azurian. Well, first of all, thank you very much. What do we do? Azurian happens to we are from Europe, actually from Sweden, and we are now stepping foot into the United States. What we do is really we are a digital, let's say, media and entertainment platform. Started from 2014, starting with online gaming, social gaming, and so forth. But then also realized that to build a media company, we started then buying more technology. The tech that we have right now was then to really speak to clients. Our ability to connect the pipes, as they've been saying, we're basically having these platforms of online gaming, which is basically what we know now is banners in gaming itself, from soccer matches to any kind of automotive, for example, gravitated more to like, how do we get clients involved? So the next 2 years of the company has been really focusing on, from that point on, from 2014 to 2016, really building our platform, building on publishers, building on how to connect the pipes when it comes to advertising and revenue. And thirdly, we went into data. Right now, with the mention of data, right now with the cookie issue that we're coming around, we're basically now one of the largest DMPs in the US and Latin America, and also in Spain, Spanish speaking. We're looking when it shifted into mobile IDs. So we use the data, the technology, and of course the actual content themselves to be that crux or the nexus within all, so then deliver branding opportunities for our clients. This has been an evolution of the company for a while, and then we've been since 2011 when it comes to the metaverse. We have one of the first games that we have, which is called Hobo. Hobo has been existing for a very long time with putting concerts, product integration, and so forth. Then also we have Hotel Hideaway, which we also work with other clients like Love Island, in which we start building opportunities together, again, product integration and so forth. So understanding data and understanding where the connectivity is with what our users want or what our clients need, and then delivering the message, of course, just advertising and revenue sales for all of it. So with that said, we're here now, and I don't know if the video is on to give you a quick update of who we are. Let me get out of the way.